every year we look at this Chargers roster, and every year we're like, oh, they can compete with the Chiefs. And every year they fall flat on their faces at the end of the year. And last year they finally made the playoffs. They had the Jacksonville Jaguars, and it was a favorable matchup, and they shit the bed. They couldn't get the win. Um, Justin Herbert puts up excellent numbers, but at the end of the day, I think he's another Philip Rivers. Hello, 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 and welcome to Updog Sports Talk. Joining me
Woo!
today is Justin McGovern and Chad Bunt.
I
And
really don't
today
like
we
being under you.
today we're going over the AFC West, the Wow Wow West.
Wow, wow, West.
All right,
Yeah.
Justin, you got the slides?
Oh, yes. Let's get started. Chad?
Chad, you got the material?
I got the materials.
All right.
The Kansas City Chiefs, the jabrones of the Midwest. Um, Everybody knows about the Kansas City Chiefs. They win Super Bowls, unfortunately. Uh, Pretty good guy behind quarterback named Patrick Mahomes. Doesn't hurt to have a guy named Travis Kelsey. Offensively, after that, you can talk about Isaiah Pacheco or Kadarius Toney or Marquez Valdez-Scantling. But after that, it's kind of limited. Sky Moore has yet to prove himself on that offense. Their offensive line isn't terrible, especially given the fact that they lost Orlando Brown. Donovan Smith, I think, is a nice pickup. Um, we'll see what Jawan Taylor still has left in his tank. And as defense goes, George Karlaftis was a great pick for them. He fits in perfectly. Hopefully, they can get Chris Jones a new contract and this dispute goes away because he's a big part of that defense. And then you can talk about Willie Gay, Nick Bolton, Drew Tranquil was a great addition, and they got basically the same defensive backs as last year. Um, I think the Chiefs are a great team. I think they could slip up a little bit. I think they need to give Mahomes actual weapons for once in his career instead of just letting him walk. Um, uh, we'll see what they do this year.
Yeah, we'll see what happens here. I mean, the Chiefs when they made their moves last year, they knew that they were setting out. They did not want this just to be like a win, two Super Bowls even. They wanted to make a dynasty out of this thing. And that is exactly what they are. And you know what's scary? What is scary for us, because all of us on the show were Bengals and Bills fans who are, so the Chiefs are our nemesis. They were retooling last year. They had a bunch of young guys in this defense and then still won the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're a year more experienced, and how are we going to beat them? We're going to find that out. We'll talk about that in the later show. But obviously, yeah, this offense looks good. Mahomes is going to be contending for the MVP again. Pacheco just runs pissed off. It's very entertaining watching him run. McKinnon catching passes out of the backfield. CEH is still there somehow, but we'll see if he gets involved at all. But I think the main change they did last year was they decided, instead of having, just Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill, they decided to kind of, they had to move on from Hill because it was cap hit. But instead, they have a plethora of weapons instead. They don't have anyone anywhere near the level of Tyreek Hill, but they also have a bunch of guys they can throw to. They all bring a different threat. MVS, Tony, Sky Moore, they need him to take a step up this year. If the Chiefs don't win the Super Bowl, Sky Moore could be one of the reasons why, because they need him to make a step up. But like they signed underrated signing of Rashee Rice. He might actually turn out to be pretty good. Or actually, he was the draft pick. Richie James is the underrated signing I was going to talk about. And Justin Ross, we all remember how awesome he was during that stretch in the 2018 college football playoff, where he was absolutely unstoppable, ripped Notre Dame and Alabama a new one, but then got hurt and hasn't really played much football since.
I would
There's
love to see
reports about him from camp. And it's like, of course, this guy who has a lot of potential but has been hurt, hasn't gotten to show it. All of a sudden, he's on the Chiefs, and guess what? Maybe he's going to show it after all. We'll see. He might be a year away. Offensive line, like you said, they lost both their tackles, had to replace them. They did a good job replacing them. Donovan Smith's kind of off and off year, but I still think he's pretty solid. Jawan Taylor, they got him from the Jaguars. I think he'll fill in pretty solidly on the right side. I mean, they tend to do pretty well with their offensive line. The middle is very good, a bunch of young guys there who have stepped up and played well. And then, yeah, like I said, with the defense, I mean, they literally like drafted most of this secondary last year. You know, they took their lumps for most of the year, and then when it came playoff time, they were playing good. Now, obviously, that's part of a Spagnuolo defense. We know how it is. You know, usually it's kind of basic early in the year, and then you get around week 13 and into the playoffs, like that's when he starts throwing that crazy stuff out there that no one's ready for. Um, yeah, I mean they have amazing linebackers in Willie Gay and Nick Bolton. Chris Jones is a situation they need to resolve. But yeah, I mean this team is definitely on paper the best team in the NFL right now. Again,
Yeah, I agree. Patrick Mahomes is going for yet another Lombardi Trophy, going for the MVP again. Travis Kelce could hit 8,000 or 1,000 receiving yards in 8 straight seasons, which has not been done by a tight end. So look to see what he can do this season. Could go down as one of the best ever. I mean, he already is in the conversation as top 5 best ever. So could he dethrone Tony Gonzalez? Rob Gronkowski, who knows? But this offensive line, I'd say the tackles are slightly worse than what they were last year, but not much of a change. You get experienced veterans in there. Andy Reid's going to make sure that this offense runs super smooth. My only question mark is, will Matt Nagy bring it down at all? Because you have to remember, he is their offensive coordinator after all. Wide receiver wise, everyone was like, oh, Chiefs are going to go out and get Hopkins. They need a receiver. They need this. They need that. Well, they have the receivers they want. They have 3 receivers that do different things. They have Justin Ross, who's killing it in camp. 700 days without playing a single snap in a non-exhibition football game, and that guy is tearing up camp right now. So he could slide into any of those spots and just be a force for them. Defensively, they bring pretty much everyone back. Secondary is really young. They got a good thing going for them. But I don't think they're super deep at corner. I watched Jalen Watson make really good plays. I've also seen him get burnt really bad. Not quite as bad as Eli Apple, but we won't go there for now. And then they have one of the best kickers in the NFL. So they're looking to go back for another Super Bowl. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if Burrow or Allen has anything to say about it, though.
On to another guy who wants to have something to say about this, Justin Herbert and the Los Angeles Chargers. Chad?
Man, the Los Angeles Chargers. What can't I say about this team? This team, honestly, is probably my favorite in the West right now. Justin Herbert got paid, deserves it. He's their future. That's the franchise right there. And what do they have with him? They got a top 5 running back in Austin Eckler. They got Keenan Allen. Yeah, he's getting old, but still Keenan Allen. It's like having DeAndre Hopkins on the team full of wide receivers. Mike Williams, 8 last year. He was a dog. Mike Williams is going to have another big season this year. Quentin Johnson, I love that draft pick. They just keep giving him more weapons to throw to. And then I really love the combination of Gerald Everett and Donald Parham. I think they're both really good tight ends. I think they, especially in this offense, the way they
cheap
play.
Tight ends too.
What? Cheap
tight ends.
Yeah, I mean, they're both had their time in the sun. They're kind of on their way out, but they're still producing, and I think they're great for this offense. I think the draft picks of Rashawn Slater, Zion Johnson have really like bolstered their offensive line, and I think Chargers are going to really make a run in this division. Defensively, you got to talk about all their weapons they got on defense. Joey Bosa, they got Khalil Mack, J.C. Jackson, Derwin James, and personally, my favorite player on this defense, Asante Samuel Jr. I think he's one of the more underrated cornerbacks in this league. I think he's due for a big season. I think we'll be talking about him with what's his name in Denver, Patrick Surtain Jr. and other cornerbacks of his stature. Sauce Gardner, I think the man's going to be up there. Kenneth Murray, I think He was taken pretty high. I think the expectations were pretty high for him. I don't see any reason to be upset with him. I think he's a pretty good linebacker for them. Eric Hendricks, again, kind of old, came from Minnesota. Not a terrible addition to this team. And then Sebastian Joseph Day, I think, is a great interior defensive lineman. Look out. Here comes the Chargers.
I'll tell you what. I keep looking at every single time we get to this point in the season, we look at the Chargers and we just get so excited. You know, Justin Herbert is such a talented quarterback. They got all these weapons on the offense. They're building the offensive line. They got guys most of this was from last year. They signed a bunch of guys on the defensive side. But they just never seem to fulfill the potential. They just don't. Now, last year, I think part of the problem was that offensive coordinator, they made a change there. Their offensive team was honestly just bad. It felt like they didn't know what they wanted to do. 2021, it felt like they were just like heaving the ball down the field and hoping it works. Then last year, they went the complete opposite direction and did nothing but like check downs and only throwing the ball at most 7 yards down the field. So, like, okay, let's actually have a scheme here. They're hoping Kellen Moore brings that. Because, when is Herbert going to win his first playoff game? He got paid now, but he has not won a playoff game yet. But I also feel like that hasn't been his fault. We're going to find out this year if they just need to make wholesale changes with the coaches, because there's no more excuses to not win a playoff game. That's the expectation. They need to win a playoff game this year. Like you said, though, this offense is awesome. I really like the idea of adding Quentin Johnson. Like, okay, so we can try to add as much as we want to the defense, but let's face it, you're not going to stop Patrick Mahomes. Give Herbert something where he could possibly just outscore him. And then Darius Davis, he can bring an elite punt returning ability as well. I saw it in person last year. He broke open the TCU game open against Colorado by returning a punt for a touchdown. That guy is an absolute speedster. I'm excited to see what he can do in the NFL too. Defensively, my biggest concern is with the defense. Bosa is obviously elite, but who else is going to bring a good pass rush? Joseph Day obviously really helped with the run defense last year. They're still not great against the run, but he at least made them a little bit better, because the year before they could not stop the run worth a shit. And then J.C. Jackson. Now, obviously he's talented, but last year was a rough year for him. He battled a lot of injuries and just overall did not play to his level. Can he get back to that? That's a huge question for the team as well. Kenneth Murray, like you said, there's nothing to really be upset about, but he's not played up to a first-round status. Can he finally get there? That's going to be a big question for them as well. Matt?
Yeah, so every year we look at this Chargers roster, and every year we're like, oh, they can compete with the Chiefs. And every year they fall flat on their faces at the end of the year. And last year they finally made the playoffs. They had the Jacksonville Jaguars, and it was a favorable matchup, and they shit the bed. They couldn't get the win. Justin Herbert puts up excellent numbers, but at the end of the day, I think he's another Phillip Rivers. You can put talent around him; he's going to put up the numbers, but the team can't invest enough in the defense. Sticking with the offense, though, Keenan Allen, Quentin Johnson, Mike Williams, a very scary three-headed dragon. They also have Josh Palmer. Can't forget about him. Yeah. He does a really good job. Gerald Everett's a good target. Donald Parham's a big guy. So they got some pieces, but is Austin Eckler, is he happy? Because who knows if he sticks there long term. And who knows if he runs like he did the past few years. He was their entire offense for half the season. That's the only reason why they were winning games was because of him. And then you can't forget about Max Duggan either. They got the TCU QB wide receiver hookup. So look for Max Duggan to help Justin Herbert out and giving him the cues that Quentin Johnson's going to be open. Defensively, they have a lot of big names, a lot of strong pieces, but they've been injury prone. Joey Bosa is very talented, but has gotten hurt a few times since he's been drafted. Khalil Mack got hurt last year. J.C. Jackson got hurt last year. Derwin James got hurt last year. If they can stay healthy, they can actually make a pretty good run in the AFC. But outside of them, I mean, like you have Derwin James and you have Asante Samuel, and then if JC Jackson's healthy, then you got a decent trio there, but you don't have a whole lot behind those guys. And then their defensive line, you pretty much only have Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack. If either one of those gets hurt, then the other's just going to get doubled the entire game, and you're just going to have a field day as the other team. But could we have a kicking controversy between Dustin Hopkins and Cameron Dicker?
Dicker the kicker.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Cameron Dicker. I don't think he's terrible, but I don't know. Dustin Hopkins is gonna win that job.
I think so too.
Didn't they draft Dicker the kicker?
Yeah.
I got some points about this team that I thought about. First of all, I think if you think of this offense, imagine them putting all four of those receivers out on the field and either Gerald Everett or both tight ends, just running nothing but tight ends. It'd be crazy, right? Because it's got 1,000,001 places to throw that ball. There's no excuse for his coaching staff to lose.
And Kellen Moore's our offensive coordinator, so he's going to jump in and bring a lot
wild
to
stuff.
Offense.
And I think didn't they part ways with the medical trainer that punctured Tyrod Taylor's lung? So maybe finally that was the problem. Maybe they just couldn't get healthy because the guy that was leading them causes a lot of the problems. And I think Austin Eckler. Yeah, you can say, is he happy? He's going to stay there, this, that, the other. But the matter of the fact is that he's there right now, and that's all that matters. He's going to be there running the ball, three downs a game or a series. Sorry, and I think he's probably going to be a top 5 running back again this year. Can't match his ability to receive the ball, and he's a power runner. So. I think the Chargers could possibly win this division. I know like you guys said, we say this every year. I seriously think this team is going to win this division.
It'll be very interesting to see. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll find out. Is Brandon Staley going to be a good coach?
I think this is his last hurrah. If he doesn't get it done, he's gone.
Yeah, they have to win the playoff game. Absolutely. That is the goal, the standard. They will accept nothing less.
I mean, what do you fire a man? I mean, look at the Bengals. They didn't fire Marvin Lewis after 16 seasons and no playoff wins, right? I mean, do they really fire him for not winning a playoff game? Because getting to the playoffs is a feat itself, right?
Well, I think the difference is how much they invested in the team versus what the Bengals invested in the team.
Yeah.
They've invested so much money on this defense, and for them to not, and for hiring a defensive-minded coach, you expect that defense to be absolutely dominant.
They hired a defensive coach who used to be a quarterback, so he knows both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
But yeah, they don't want another Phillip Rivers situation. You referenced it earlier, Matt. They don't want to have another star Hall of Fame potential quarterback and not get anywhere with him. So, that's the next step. If you're not winning the playoff game, that is the next step.
Yeah.
When are they going to have their own city? Are they just staying in LA permanently?
Yeah, they share with the Rams.
They have no intentions of moving?
No. Apparently not.
Yeah, wow.
It's weird, but eventually moving cities. How about another team that moves cities? Las Vegas Raiders.
Vegas, baby! Yeah, the Vegas Raiders. They went out and lost Derek Carr, and what they do, they replaced him with a quarterback that's about the same. They got Jimmy G. Can Jimmy G stay healthy? Will he be on the field most of the season? Does he mesh well with this team? We're going to find that out real quick. That being said, they don't have Josh Jacobs. Is it going to be a completely different team? I would change their projections at the end of the season based off of that alone. Josh Jacobs is going to carry this team. I do like Zamir White, but you can't just walk away from a man like Josh Jacobs, just like the Colts can't walk away from Jonathan Taylor. Devontae Adams is great. You can't say more about him. The guy is a top 5 receiver every year.
I think he's the best wide receiver in the NFL.
It's arguable. I mean, Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams. You can throw
up there with him
and Tyreek Hill in that conversation, and Stephon Diggs. But yeah, he's up there. It's hard just to pick one. Other than that, I think you got some mid-range receivers, Jacoby Myers and Hunter Renfro. I think they're both threes in my opinion. Um, Austin Hooper, I think he probably won't remain the starter. I think Michael Mayer is going to be the man, baby Gronk. I think a lot of teams are going to be upset they didn't draft him. Cough, cough, Bengals, cough, cough. Um, their offensive line could use some work. We'll see if that's going to lead to a lot of the problems. Defensively, it's like a hodgepodge in this defense. I like that they got Marcus Peters. I like Max Crosby. Chandler Jones is kind of old. Jerry Tillery's
Still dominant.
yeah, but I mean, like, how much more does he have in the tank? Same with Jerry.
Honestly,
Tillery.
though, like we were excited about that signing. Chandler Jones did not live up to it last year. He did not.
No.
I mean, and there's guys like Robert Spillane. I do like Spillane when he was in Pittsburgh, but see what he can do in Las Vegas. Marcus Epps isn't terrible, but it's just like a hodgepodge. Nate Hobbs, I like him, but no one's really like a star. They're I feel like they're fading stars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Max Crosby is the biggest star on that team.
Yeah.
Sure.
I struggle to find what is this team's plan. Like, what do they want to try to find a franchise quarterback or not? So far, it just seems like a bunch of recycled guys who played the McDaniel system before. Jimmy G, I think he can run the system well, but like, how long can he stay healthy? He only made it through a whole season like once ever. And if he gets hurt, they got Brian Hoyer, old ass Brian
Aiden
Hoyer.
O'Connell.
Aiden O'Connell.
Aiden O'Connell. Like, they need to resolve the thing with Josh Jacobs for sure. Receiver.
Hey, the man.
Receiver, I think they're solid, but again, like I don't think they have like a true number two to be there with Adams. I do like the Michael Mayer pick. That was a huge steal.
Mm-hmm.
I think he'll be very key for them going forward. I mean, you pretty much nailed it with the offense overall. Like the offensive line is a mess. It still is. It's been a mess for a very long time. I don't know why the Raiders can't ever seem to solve it. Defensively, Max Crosby is still going to be a massive pain to all the quarterbacks in the division. But Tyree Wilson was a huge pick. There's a reason why they drafted him, because Chandler Jones is a disappointment. If Tyree Wilson, though, can live up to that hype, be healthy this year, this defensive line could be very dangerous. I don't like the rest of the defense, though. Like, again, like the secondary was very, very bad. And then they went and signed Marcus Peters to help the secondary. But like, okay, but do you think you compete with the Chiefs, Chargers, Broncos? It doesn't really feel like they can, but they're kind of in denial about it. So, and that's kind of what that Peters signing kind of feels like to me. And I mean, Trayvon Moore-Rig is like the only other good piece in the secondary, I feel like. So this team's just kind of stuck in the middle right now.
Yeah, I don't trust Josh McDaniels. I don't think he's that good of a head coach. I think the only reason why he did anything in Denver was because he was cheating, and he got caught for that, and then scurried back to New England to learn new ways to cheat. You have arguably the best receiver in the NFL. You have a guy who has played well in this system. You have a running back that hasn't signed his franchise tag yet, and who knows if he actually will. But if he does come back, they have a few good pieces on the offense. Michael Mayer is definitely going to be a huge piece for them. Love that pick. Not just as a Notre Dame fan, but just he fits well with this offense. Offensive line, it's a bunch of busts and band-aids. They don't really have a whole lot going for them. I don't know how they can even run the ball, to be honest. I like Alex Bars. He wasn't really much in the NFL, but he played well at Notre Dame. Colton Miller was kind of a bust. Like, if you go down the list, they kind of suck. Defensively, Max Crosby, one of the best edge rushers in the NFL. Chandler Jones, can he get back to his Cardinals days, or is he just washed at this point? Tyree Wilson, I think they missed on that pick, but we'll see what he does this year. Jerry Tillery does really good against the run. Bilal Nichols does well against the run. Trayvon Mooring and Marcus Peters hold down the secondary. Other than that, though, they don't have much. One name that you guys didn't really talk about, but we all have talked to each other about after the draft was Trey Tucker. Trey Tucker has speed out of Cincinnati. I think he can make the difference in the receiving room. I think Jacoby Myers is probably going to lose that spot pretty quickly. But I don't think it's going to make much of a difference. I think they're going to be competing for a top pick.
Yeah, you know, something I wanted to talk about with this top pick talk right here is, you know, I think they could be possibly one of these teams that could be going for that number one pick, have the worst record in football potentially. And you know, a lot of teams, you know, at that point you're thinking about getting a new quarterback, that kind of thing. I don't think they go for quarterback in this situation. I think this team, imagine if they went after Marvin Harrison. Right? Put in with Devontae Adams, Marvin Harrison, then have all the rest of those receivers. Any quarterback in the league. I think Brian Hoyer would be really successful with that receiver room.
Yeah. We mentioned Marvin Harrison just about every team that stinks.
Yeah.
or
he's going anywhere from 2 to he's going anywhere from 2 to like 10.
Well, he could go 1. I mean, really, he could go 1, honestly.
Very easily. But do you take a receiver 1? Probably not.
A generational talent, maybe.
But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of teams competing for the top spot.
Absolutely.
More
the Raiders
for that than the Super Bowl.
the Raiders are a team I feel like should compete for the number one pick, but they probably signed too many vets to do that.
Yeah,
they're also not competing for the playoffs, so they're in no man's land.
They're probably competing for a decent offensive lineman, though.
Yeah,
and Brian Johnson as their head coach. So win-win, I guess. I guess lose, win-win. I guess is how you should put it.
Something like
we can move on to the Broncos before this goes downhill.
All right, on to the Denver Broncos. Chad?
The Denver Broncos, man. You like it? You like that? Sean Payton, man. I love the coach. I think he's great, but I just don't think this team is going to be able to do it for him. I think last year when they traded for Russell Wilson, that really hurt them going forward. I think he's going to prevent them from taking a quarterback or somebody to take this team further because I just don't think the man has it anymore. I think, he won his rings and it's time for him to, start thinking about retirement and doing other things. That being said, I do love a few of these players in this offense. I think Javonte Williams, when he's healthy, I think he could be a top 10 running back in this league, potentially top 5. Jerry Jeudy, again, all this is health oriented on this team. Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, I think those guys are great. It's really sad to see KJ Hamler have to walk away from the team. I thought the guy was a great talent. I thought those three together made that team kind of dangerous.
And with Tim Patrick hurt.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, we'll see what Marvin Mims and Marquez Callaway can do, or Lil Jordan Humphrey. We'll see what they can do.
He's not small either.
His name is literally Lil Jordan.
Lil Humphrey. Jordan.
Yeah, he's not small. That guy's 6'6".
Well, and then at tight end, man, they got it's like a revolving door. Last year we thought it was Albert. I'm not even going to try and say that.
You're not going to try?
No, Albert. I'm going to say Alberto. It was him first. Then it was Greg Dulcich. I think maybe Troutman ends up taking that spot this year. I think he's an underrated talent they have, but I think it's like a revolving door there. Their offensive line could use some work. I do like Garrett Bowles and Lloyd Cushenberry. And McGlinchey is a great sign, but can Quinn Miners do it? And can Ben Powers do it? I think they need some work at guard. The signing of Frank Clark on defense was a great signing. I love Baron Browning. I think he's going to shine in this defense. And Randy Gregory was a great signing as well. We'll see what happens. Their defense is kind of interesting on paper, but we'll see what happens on the field. Obviously, Patrick Surtain is going to be a dog. Kareem Jackson, I like him a lot. Justin Simmons, I think defensively they're going to lock some people up. It's just their interior D line. Other than Frank Clark, it's like they could get pounded for some rushing yards. Other than
They got
that,
Mike Purcell.
Hmm.
He's hurt though.
yeah, I mean, so I don't know. We'll see what the Broncos can do. It's really dependent on health with these last two teams, So hopefully they can stay healthy on the field and maybe give these other teams a run.
Yeah, I mean, the big key is going to be, can Russ reopen the kitchen and cook again? Because that's really the whole key. We're going to find out pretty quickly why this team was so bad last year. Was it Russell Wilson, or was Nathaniel Hackett really that overwhelmed as a head coach? Which, I mean, a lot of what people are saying does sound like he was. Things definitely seem very wonky, just out of order. He seems like a good offensive coordinator, but just can't do it as a head coach. Exact opposite here with Sean Payton. You just brought in one of the top coaches in the NFL. So I'm very curious to see how that transition works. I actually feel like it could lead to a huge step up. Devontae Williams needs to be healthy, but P. Ryan could also play pretty well in this place, especially early in the year when Williams is still recovering. I like the receivers they have. I feel like the offensive line keeps progressively getting a little bit better. Like you said, still a few holes. This defense looks like it's pretty elite, especially the secondary. I'm excited to see what they can do back there. I feel like they can even bother some of these other elite passing attacks in the division. This is one of the most intriguing teams to me in the NFL this year. They really could go any way.
Yeah, and I think Sean Payton's going to be a big difference on offense, and Coach Vance Joseph, shout out Sergio Dip, is going to be a huge boost to the defense. I think there's still a lot of holes on defense. Pat Surtain is definitely anchoring it down. Him and Justin Simmons are going to definitely play a big role. You have two of the best people at their positions just on the same defense with a good defense coordinator. And I'm pretty sure Justin Simmons may have played with Vance Joseph, if I'm not mistaken. I think this team is going to be a lot different than last year. I think Russell Wilson's not going to be the Russell Wilson of old, but I think he's going to get back on track. Maybe not cook completely, maybe just microwave some stuff.
TV dinner, Russ.
He's going to be making some TV dinners, but
Gopher's Russell Wilson.
Yep.
I think Samaje Perine turning down the Bengals offer to take the same contract in Denver is actually going to be a huge boost to Denver. Love how he runs. Didn't do a whole lot before last season, so interested to see what Sean Payton can do with him. But it's Javonte Williams' spot. Just going to be a spell back coming in. Wide receiver, Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton can be some of the best receivers in the NFL. Both of them have had horrific injuries. See if they can stay healthy. But you can go through this roster and look to see that Sean Payton has already made his mark. Troutman came over from New Orleans. Callaway came over from New Orleans. There's a couple other people too. And you can just see he's bringing the people that he made a difference with that may not get a spot on another team, but he knows how to make them good. So I don't think, because of how deep the Chargers look, and we do say that every year, and how the Chiefs could just keep going on a run, I just don't see the Broncos doing much behind those two. Unfortunately for them, but I think they have the tools to start building towards a good team.
Yeah. And I mean, that kind of transition, I think, gives us a hint of where you expect them to finish here.
Rapid fire time, boys.
Chiefs possibly going to the Super Bowl again. Chargers just looking for a playoff win. Broncos look pretty good, but can they sustain? Raiders, Caleb Williams, Drake May, Marvin Harrison sweepstakes.
Yeah, I mean, Chiefs, no doubt. There's no way I'm picking against them. But you know what? I don't believe in the Chargers. I just don't. I cannot buy into this coaching staff. While I am bought in on Sean Payton, I'm going with the Broncos over the Chargers as an upset. Broncos to the playoffs. Chargers probably battling out with an AFC East team for that seventh wild card spot, maybe a North team too. There's three divisions in the AFC that could put three teams in the playoffs, so that'll be interesting. And then Raiders. I just don't see the Raiders getting anywhere close to the rest of these teams.
Yeah, you guys know me. You've been watching the past few episodes. You know I'm a wild card. I shoot from the hip, so that's why I picked the Chargers. Because on paper this team is scary, and I think they could really give the Chiefs a nightmare. Obviously, saying that Chiefs are probably one of the better teams in the league, possibly the best team in this league. So it'd be kind of crazy to think that they could come in second. I could see them both going to the playoffs really quickly. And then let's talk about the Josh Jacobs thing. If he's not on the Raiders, I see them coming in last place. And Broncos country, let's ride in the third place. Right now, I got them in last place. I just don't think it's going to work for them. I think he got a couple years before Sean Payton gets that team going. But I think this is a really entertaining division. I think any of these teams could really make a run towards the playoffs.
Yeah, with only 3 minutes left, not a whole lot of time. Any last thoughts?
Broncos country. Well, that's right.
I'm telling you right now, Chargers are winning this division, Justin. I'll bet whatever on it.
$5.
Put it on FanDuel. We're not
FanDuel?
sponsored. Can't tell you to go bet for them. So we are not getting paid from FanDuel. It's just our preferred app. Well, that is the AFC West, the Wild Wild West. We'll see how it plays out, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Have a good one, everybody.
Yeah.